And we will have everything that we have now. It will just be on a screen instead of on paper, and it will be just as ineffective, and it will cost a whole lot of money, and we'll be just as stuck as we will, and not have another ticket to play to be able to make a change.
Our goal is to help you think critically about the technology you'll use in your classroom, and to begin to see the potential technology has to transform and engage students in the learning experience in new ways. To begin, we're going to show you a technology integration framework. Frameworks are tools we use to begin conversations. In this case, conversations about how we should use technology to improve student learning. Let me introduce the RAT model. The first letter R represents replacement. Replacement can mean the following. 1. Changes the appearance or dressing of our practices, but not the practice itself, making digital copies of traditional practices, recycling instruction. 2. It doesn't affect teaching or learning practices and behaviors. 3. Can still be a useful use of technology because it can increase access. For example, a digital worksheet won't get lost or eaten by your dog, but it doesn't really impact or improve learning. The A in RAT equals amplifying. In other words, technology improves the efficiency of tasks or introduces new functions to original tasks. The T in RAT equals transforming. It introduces new activities in learning that are impossible without technology. Take away the technology, take away the learning too. Next in our PIC RAT model is the PIC portion. P equals passive. In other words, students are observers, bystanders in their learning. The I equals interactive. Students engage in material in an interactive way. They are active learners. The C equals creative. Students are creating materials themselves. They are creative learners instead of passive or active ones. This is the apex of student engagement, and students often learn deeper when they have to create something using the content. By combining PIC and RAT together, we create a matrix of the many different ways technology can influence teaching and learning. You could use a technology that replaces a face-to-face conversation and where students are passive learners, such as a video lecture, or where they get to interact back through technology, such as a video conversation, or where they get to learn by creating their own videos in a way that completely transforms the way you typically teach. The PIC RAT model is a great tool for helping you to think about your teaching and how you use technology in the classroom. None of the squares on the matrix is necessarily a bad way to teach. Sometimes it's good to be a passive learner, for example, and listen to others, such as in this video. But a good teacher will continually evaluate their practice and think how they can improve. Using the PIC RAT model can help you think about what kinds of ways you could use technology that will help students be more active and creative as learners, and ways that transform your teaching to levels you hadn't considered before. So when you hear about a new technology, don't just ask what it can do for you that you already are doing anyway. Think PIC RAT and see if there's a way this technology can help you transform your teaching in positive ways.
All right, so I hope that introduction was helpful if you've never heard of PIC RAT before. You may have heard of SAMAR, is very similar, or the TPAC framework. And so this is exactly what it is. It's a framework for technology to help us as teachers continue to improve our lessons for our students, right? And so, as he said at the end, it is not necessarily, no box is bad if you are there some days. The key is just to continue to improve. So just another quick example of what a passive replacing this PR would be is going from having students complete a worksheet on paper to then completing an online worksheet on Google Doc, right? That's just a quick little passive replacement. But now if we move up a step, we put that activity on a Kahoot, and it now is more interactive as the whole class is doing it together. And so we move up to that next level. And then lastly, if you now have the students create their own quiz on the Google Doc that they will then share with one partner, and the partner has to complete that activity, and then they turn both of them in. Now we've made it up to that creative level. I see the chat is moving. Are there questions or anything going on in the chat?
Just questions about like signing in.
Okay.
No, no.
All right, Moses, did you have anything else on this slide?
Yeah, so I was saying, like, even with the Google Forms, depending on how you do it, it can also, like, move into, like, on the teacher practices, and move up to not just replacing but also amplifying, because you're getting the immediate feedback to students, as well as also, increasing your own teacher practices, because you save time on grading, which also allows you to more time for planning, and like to build and develop those more creative activities for students, because like we know right now we have tons of stuff that we have to do that takes up a lot of time. So I mean, so the reason why the county went to this model is really because this is the main model that shows not only how the students are interacting with the technology, but also what the teachers' practices are.
So goals for PIC RAT. Again, the two big things are for you to be able to have this model, that you look at your lesson, see where you are, be reflective of how can I improve my lessons? Am I good for where I am today? Am I just introducing something so it's more of a passive level? This activity that I created, is it passive? Can I make it creative? Can I amplify it using technology? What things can I do? And again, finding the meaningful uses. How can I make this relevant for the students? Those are the goals, and that's exactly what Moser said, why they chose PIC RAT, because it looks at the students. So that student side, the more they're creative, the more they're going to learn, right? And then for the teacher, how are we improving ours from replacing to using this technology to take our lessons to the next level? So right now, if you can think about a lesson you might have did this week, or lessons that you do, just thinking about yourself, where do you land most of your lessons? You should be able to have a drag, a star that you can drag, and just place it on one of the on the initials of where you are.
Be honest with this. Nobody's going to see what you did. This is one of the cool things about Pear Deck, is that it can be completely anonymous, and it's okay. If you're, like they said, like the creative transforming may be the highest level,
Mm-hmm.
but we're never really going to live there. At any given day, we're going to be at a different point depending on what the lesson is, because we're using technology intentionally, and there's not always going to be time or a direct application, for a creative or transformative activity at the moment.
Great.
And this is really cool. So a lot of us see ourselves as interactive, amplifying, and a lot replacing, but also interactive, which again, this is why this model is so good, because it's going to be reflective for you. I think a lot of us as teachers have figured out, well, one, we got to make this virtual learning interactive. So a lot of us have been able to get to that level for the students, because that's the only way we're going to get them engaged right now anyway. And so it's really good to see that we made it that far, and some of us even made it to that creative level. And now this is going to start helping us question ourselves and say, okay, am I just replacing something I would have did in the classroom? And sometimes that's fine. I know one of my first lessons is writing vocab. I don't need technology for them to write down their vocab. They could just write out of a book. But right now they got to do it with technology, right? So then I keep going on. My next lesson, is it something that, again, that can just be done on paper, or is the technology helping grow that lesson? So I think this is a really good place. Does any teacher want to share out what they chose and why? Looking for 2 volunteers. Go ahead, Banfield. I see you raise your hand first, and then Post, you'll go next.
I'm at replacing the interactive, because I'm starting to use more of the interactive technologies we have, because I'm also becoming more intentional like you said, with our distance learning, we've got to become that intentional. We've got to make it interactive. And especially for our struggling students, the more interactive it is, the more engaging, the less chance they have of falling by the wayside too.
Good, good, good. And then post, thank you for that, Ms. Banfield. I totally agree.
So I put myself at interactive and amplifying because I've found that online, actually, you can make your lessons almost more interactive. Mr. Teacher and I use Pear Deck a lot. And so students are constantly interacting with the lesson. You know, even if I'm lecturing something, then the next slide, students are doing it. And then amplifying for sure, because I think online you're way more efficient. Students don't have to write things by paper anymore. They can just drag dots just like we did on this slide.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a lot of perks. I definitely want to get to the transforming.
Okay. And
Swain,
go
can I
ahead.
jump in?
Yeah.
And thank you guys for sharing that. I've definitely seen Ms. Post in action, and I look forward to seeing Ms. Benfield. But I really want to call somebody else out. Reva Smith, can you unmute yourself? Because Ms. Smith, as an art teacher, has a digital sketchbook. And can you, I just never even heard of things like this. So I'm just amazed by what you guys are doing. Can you talk a little bit about that, Reva, please?
Absolutely. It was so funny because Miss Cook came in and observed me during this, but it's something I've kind of like pieced together by watching TikTok, and I'm kind of in the process of like trying to make a video to kind of show what I've done to create this. It is absolutely ridiculous right now, but I think I'm like starting to streamline it a little bit. So I'll send that out once I get it finished.
All right. And that's, so what level did you put yourself?
Same as Miss Post, interactive amplifying.
You don't think that's creative though? If they're doing their own sketches?
So, but they're not the ones creating the sketchbook though. It's just me.
Okay. All right. Well, that is definitely, again, that's just another awesome way of how this virtual has forced us to, most of us, to already move to that interactive, and it's forcing all of us to get there. And then next step is to get to that creative. One thing Ms. Post said I would like to point out, if maybe you put yourself lower. Look, if you're doing Pear Deck, if you're doing Nearpod, any of those interactive, if you're using annotations on Zoom, all those things, you're already at interactive, right? So I just want to make sure nobody is downplaying themselves, because anything where the kids are having to do things like she said, dragging these dots or the star, that automatically moves them up. And just a quick shout out with Pear Deck. I'll let y'all know, I'm a very high techie person, but I have my websites I like. Pear Deck was not a website that I use. Today is actually my first time ever leading a Pear Deck. I have another website that I do, and it's not Nearpod either. But one small cool thing, if you don't know what Pear Deck, I can see there are 88 people who are on the Pear Deck, but only 64 responded, right? And so that's just a really quick, cool way to shout out and say, hey, where are my other 20 people who haven't done the activity? We want to see your responses as well. As Dr. Brown, it's called quizzes, and you might have used it. People might have used it to do like quizzes, but they've actually added a lesson format to it, and so I do lessons on there now. But that's for another day. So just really cool to see where most of us are. And I hope you feel even more confident in the fact that if you are in that interactive, you know, you can see most people are where you are. And we got some superstar teachers who are already at that creative stage. And that's great.
Another thing about Pear Deck that's really cool is it's also amplifying, because the anonymity of the responses, you know, so now you give students a way to participate, and they don't have to worry about feeling, you know, like they're going to be made fun of because they don't know the answer. You know, so it's a good way for students to be comfortable. Like we know right now we have so many students that don't even want to turn their cameras on, you know, because they're afraid of, you know, being seen or have people seen in their households. You know, students that, especially at this age, you know, how they're seen by their peers is so important. So this is just a way for them to be able to interact in a very comfortable setting, which also goes along with like the Danielson model, you know, of a, you know, the learning environment and culture.
Yep. FFT. Good job, Moses.
FFT, yeah.
All right. So empowering your lesson. So we're gonna watch a quick video, and we're gonna then come back and decide what we think. We're gonna judge this lady's 7th grade RELA classes activity and see where it falls on the PIC RAT model. Hopefully I'm still logged in. I had to log in before. Yeah.
To be sort of peripherally present online. It's not a knock on kids. It's how people interact with technology. And so we have to start pushing back together and stay here and improve. First, and they are reading The Jungle by these are her 7th grade students, and they are reading The Jungle by Upton Sinclair, which you may be familiar with, written at the turn of the 20th century, a muckraking journalism story about the terrible things that go on in factories on Chicago's South Side. And the first nonfiction, or the first fiction expose novel. So she gives them a very difficult passage, and then she asks them, she uses a Google Sheet here, she asks them to write and share their responses to the text. And some really fascinating things happen. So again, stick with me for a second while I try and manage the technology here. Okay. Here we go.
So what we're now going to do is answer question number 2. We're going to go back to the text and answer the following questions. What do you notice about the author's word choice and imagery? How do those choices impact the reader? I want you to focus on paragraphs 2 and 7. Let me synthesize what I'm seeing.
In case it's not obvious, I just jumped ahead a little bit there on the video. This is her sharing. This is her students looking at each other's writing to see how they each responded to the text.
In the board meeting talked about how his author's chapters demonstrate how dangerous the conditions were. What I'm noticing is that we all...
And now she's going back and reteaching, right? And I'll come back to this in a second and let you look more closely at what the students wrote. But basically, she's recognized from looking at the students' written responses that they have not understood this challenging passage.
Basically said very similar things. And John, I want to push us to come up with different interpretations. So I'm going to highlight some text, and then I'm going to ask you to Zoom chat me what you notice. All right. So in paragraph 2, Mariah highlighted that their knuckles were getting swollen. Their hands also started to have cuts. In paragraph 4, Mariah highlighted that the acid is eating their fingers off. Now, a piece of evidence I don't think I saw anyone really highlight was in paragraph 7, where, take a look, sometimes the fertilizer man would fall into the vats. I'm going to ask you to participate. What would happen once they would fall into the vats?
If they were to fall into the vats, they were to fall into the vats, they would get hurt, or they would just they'll be fished out, right? And they'll go back to work.
We would get fished out, and then they would go back to work. Angel?
I wanted to respectfully disagree with you when you said that they would be fished out and would have to go back to work. No, sometimes when they fell in, they would get stuck for a couple days because people would forget about them, and then they would get shipped out, and sometimes people would end up eating them.
Hold on. I just saw some of our faces go, what? Our eyes got really big all of a sudden. Angel, unmute yourself. Let's go back to the text one more time.
All right, I'm going to cut it off there. It's a powerful and kind of amazing scene. One, because her check for understanding is so good, but it's also kind of amazing to see the surprise on the kids' faces when she explains what's happening in this text.
All right, so we're going to pause it right there. And now on Pair Deck, I have two questions for you to respond to. First one's, what did you notice the teacher do or say to engage with the students? And the next one is, where would the lesson fall in the PIC RAT framework and why? Thank you, Ms. Holmes. So if you could put that in the Pair Deck, and I probably can just call on you to be one of the people who responds. So another cool thing with Pair Deck, with the short response, you can share on your screen and see what is happening. So if video lags on my end, maybe connection, okay. And that helps you as a teacher to be able to see, you don't see who's writing what, but you can see responses.
Hold on. I'm not writing it. How come mine's not in there? Okay.
Yes.
And so what I'm noticing is a lot of people are focusing on what the students are doing. A lot of people said that it was interactive. What would you feel about as far as the teacher portion of it? So was it just like replacing, or was it amplifying, or was it transforming?
And
somebody says creative transforming.
Yeah, I see transforming. McNeil, I am gonna show the model, but if I leave this slide, y'all won't be able to respond. So I am gonna leave this.
Go back because I don't know what.
So if anybody that said that is transforming, would they like to share their reasoning why?
No, I'm still trying to.
One of the first responses I saw was from Ms. Holmes in the chat. So I would like for her to, I believe it's Ms. Holmes. It's just.
Yeah, it was me. Me. Hi guys. I did not see the teacher as being interactive, amplifying, even though that the kids were. I saw the teacher using a video that showed another teacher who was being interactive, creative. So he, in my opinion, moved from, I guess, just being passive to like maybe passive replacing.
Okay, so I understand. Sorry that it was kind of confusing. We were supposed to be rating Susie Kim's, which was the teacher we were watching. He was just.
Oh.
He was an observer.
Presentation.
He was an observer.
Yes.
Okay. Well, in that case, then she was interactive amplifying because she used Google Docs to allow her students to respond in real time with one another, and also be able to see their expressions of what they thought about what they were watching.
Okay, and so, go ahead, Mo.
No, I was saying, so like, like some of the things that she was doing also, they had the annotations. So like she was able to annotate, and also the students were able to annotate with each other, and share their responses. And she even, one thing that the gentleman pointed out was that looking at the responses, she was immediately able to see that they didn't really get it. So she was able to make that and be flexible and respond to their learning and their understanding immediately.
True, which takes her to I guess creative from that aspect because of what the students were able to do with one another.
Okay.
The creative has to do with what the students do.
Exactly. That's what yeah.
All right, and Ms. Anderson, I see you wrote in the chat, so I want you to go ahead and speak as well. I switched the slide, so now we can kind of just see where everybody thinks. You can drag the dot again, and this time you're not putting it for yourself, you're putting it for where her lesson, her activity fell. But Ms. Anderson, you can, if you don't mind, can you answer?
No, that's fine. I said that she was transformative because she asked the question straightforward as a teacher would, and saw their mistakes in real time. And once she realized that none of them had what, none of them understood, she in real time fixed their misconceptions, which is important when we're dealing with text, because if we allow them to take those misconceptions with them, then they're not able to do the assignment, any independent work that we are asking them to do. So I said she was transformative. Also, the kids were using accountable talk stems throughout their question and answers with one another. And the way she was using the annotation right there, taking them through, showing them, everything was real time. So to me, it was transformative because of the way she had them engage. And not only their expressions, but you could tell that she, just everything was good. I liked it.
So and that's the main thing about transforming. It's about, would it be possible without the technology? So if she was just standing in front of the classroom, if we were all, back in the building, would she be able to get that feedback and respond immediately like that? And so Ms. Anderson argues that would be impossible. I'd agree with that.
Myself, I would too, because even if they were writing on paper and you're as a teacher walking around, you're just not going to be able to get to everybody's paper as quickly as she can. That still was time consuming. You could see her tab. She had what it seemed like to be all her students' papers open so that she could just jump from tab to tab to tab. But still, that's not something you can do without technology. So definitely I saw that transformative piece as well. All right, you go ahead.
So this is, we're going to look at some examples of a vision board activity that was done in a 5th grade class. And so we have one example that's passive and one is interactive and one is creative. Mr. Swain, if you can click on sample 1, we're going to look at the passive example where the teacher created the vision board and just gave it to the students. So this is, it's a very nice graphic, and it's probably very useful in some ways. And like we said, you're not always going to live in that transformative, creative point, but especially when you're first presenting or modeling to students, you have to model and give them an example. But as we go throughout the year, then you have to progress and then show students how they can create or how they can interact and do different things with the technology. So let's go ahead and look at the next one, interactive, and that's why we have the pluses to show that this is a growth.
And so now on this one, the directions are given, which helps the students to be able to make their own. And then the student comes up with their own, begins to create their own vision board. If it loads up. All right, there we go. So then the students create their own, they begin to make their own, but it's still not fully on their own because it was very explicit instructions on how to make the vision board. And then the students begin to make their own different ones. So then that takes us to the last version where it's fully on the student's choice on how they want to design it and if they want to publish it on Flipgrid or Padlet. And the feedback piece is the key because they're going to get the feedback from their peers. So the vision board was made by the student. It was put into this Padlet, and then they're getting feedback from their peers.
And again, this goes on also to like the transformative piece because again, this is something that really couldn't or might not be able to happen without the technology. For one, like with this example, you have you're not limited necessarily by the time frame of the classroom because it can also they can create it in class or at home, and then they have more time to interact with each other. And then if they were to create, there's not an example here, but if they were to create a Flipgrid, that's something that you obviously have to have a video camera or computer in order to do.
All right.
Go on to the next slide.
So thinking about technology, what you need to do, consider what you want for your students, right? So right now we know we have Google Suite, and Google Suite is one of the best ways to allow students to not only create but collaborate as well. And then we have a whole bunch of different websites. We just showed Padlet, Flipgrid. You know, one thing I use a lot is Edge Elastic Quizzes. We have different websites where students can create, and also we're trying to use PIC RAT to you want to make your classes interactive, because we all know right now that attendance is a big thing, and as this school year keeps going, we have to make our classes fun, quote unquote, because we are trying. That is one thing we are really fighting for. Attendance was almost a luxury in the regular building, even though we had our attendance goals to get to 95. But I've been telling people thinking about it, we were happy to get to 95 or higher. And I know right now we're probably at 65 or lower %, right? So it was a luxury. Right now we have to do things to get our classes interactive, so that students will want to come and want to be in class. So it's just making sure we think about those things.
It's also an issue of like commitment and compliance. I mean, we could create a video lesson and just present that, and but like just like adults. So we had a PD today. If I can speak on that, like we had to watch a long video, which is kind of hard to do. It's not really fun. The information's important, I guess, but it's not really going to keep kids engaged and into the material. So we got to be very intentional of like what exactly we want them to do and how we want them to enjoy and interact with it. So now we're going to do is we're going to have you go into some breakout rooms, and we're going to put you in randomly. You're going to look at some lesson plans, and we're going to kind of see where they fall along the PIC RAT model. And each group is going to have a note-taking document. Mr. Swain's going to explain that in just a second. So you'll pick one person to lead and type into the document, and then we'll share out when we come back.
Yes. So we're going to have 15 minutes on our group. So like you said, it's going to be random. Each group has this note-taking document that they will use. And so you're going to see the standards. When you're in your groups, we need one facilitator. I would suggest, like, if you get a facilitator, have them just share this to the screen. Because when you're in your breakout rooms, everybody has the ability to share their screens. So when you get in your rooms, one person just share their screen with this document. It's already editable, so everybody should be able to type into it. You can literally just copy and paste the standards and the lessons. As a group, you discuss what level you believe the PIC RAT, what level you believe for each for each part of the lesson, and then your goal is to take it up to the next level on the empowered lesson piece, and figure out how you can take it to the next level. What I am also going to do, the Pear Deck, I'm going to release it to where it's student led, so that you all can move back to the actual model. And that way, and you still can move back forward to click this note-taking document. So are there questions before I send you out? Me and Mr. Moser will be jumping around in groups. So, but before I even release you all, is there any question on what we're doing? Yes. So, Cook, let's say your breakout room and your title, I've already titled them. So you're going to see the title at the top. Your middle school social studies. So if you click this link, it opens up this lesson. All right. Your group is going to use this note-taking document to go through the lesson, figure out what level it is on PIC RAT. So the PIC part and then the RAT part. Any notes or comments. Then you are trying to take it up to the next level, and you are going to discuss in your groups what you can do to take it to the next level. Is that good? Okay. You said the middle school says y'all need access this one. Let me change that real quick before I even break y'all out, because I don't want y'all to get there and so I mean I should be able to view. I will, as a matter of fact, I can't change it in here. So what I'll do, I'll come to the science and I'll put the link in there. All right.